All right, what is going on, everybody? Today we're doing a super special video that's talking about really how to start making decisions when it comes to your hair loss. You may be at the beginning of your journey, you may be a little bit further through your journey based off of how much hair you're losing, what situation you're in, and what your options are. But this is going to be kind of like a from the very get-go, what you can possibly do, if it does work, if it doesn't work, different courses of action that you can take. And ultimately, we're going to also be talking about some of the things that do and do not work, some of the things that are fallacious and are just false advertising, and some of the things that do work and that you could potentially explore. So first, let's talk about hair loss. Once again, up front, hair loss is caused by a scalp sensitivity to DHT and testosterone. These androgens inside of our body are basically going ahead and they're attacking our hair follicles. And I'm using this like or I'm simplifying this a little bit too much, but they're attacking our hair follicles and they're basically killing them off, right? So everything that we do is we're trying to limit the way that DHT and testosterone actually affect our hair follicles. So if you're early in your journey, right, you have the most options that you could possibly ask for. As you go further into your journey, you have less and less options. At the beginning of your journey, though, we need to actually resolve that sensitivity of DHT and testosterone and actually attacking your scalp. And the ways that we do this, or can do this, is actually with drugs. So let's break this down by a chart. If you're just starting your journey, the first thing that you consider is drugs, right? This is stuff that is actually going to block the sensitivity to DHT and testosterone inside of our body. Now, what options do you have? Well, the two common ones that most people know are minoxidil, which is Rogaine and other things like this. And then the other one is finasteride, or, Propecia. Now, a lot of us know these two products, but there are others out there. Minoxidil is a topical that you can apply to your scalp that you want to leave in for about 2 to 4 hours at a time. Finasteride is something that you take orally. Finasteride is proven clinically to reduce that sense. It's proven. Now, finasteride is proven to actually attack that DHT and help regrow hair over a long period of time. Now, there are other less researched drugs out there in the world. I'm going to name 4 of them with also some of the clinical trials that have gone on with them. First up is adenosine, which is something that has been compared against minoxidil and has shown better hair growth actually in some case studies over minoxidil in the short term. And some of the good things about this is it's actually been done in human studies, not in vitro, not in glass, just in a test tube or something like this. So it's actually shown that there is positive results with this. So we have auxiliary to these two right here, which are the two main ones that most people choose because there's the most research, they're the most safe. These are less researched ones. We have adenosine, which has been shown to grow better hair growth than minoxidil. We have stamoxidine. Now, this most of the evidence is mechanistic, and it's made by L'Oreal. They're the makers of this. Now, it's shown to be quite a lot less effective than minoxidil. Most participants inside of their studies that they have done have grown about 1,000 to 4,000 hairs. That sounds like a lot of hair, but it's really not a lot of hair over the whole scalp area. It's not super powerful, but it has been shown to have some effects. So we have stamoxidine right there. Now after that, we have alpha-tridiol. This is another research chemical, hasn't been studied as much, but it hasn't been proven as effective against minoxidil on like a comparative analysis here. It does, however, work differently. So this is something that you could potentially stack. So we have alpha-tridiol, and then we have dutasteride. Now this out of the research, or the less researched chemicals, is probably the most known about. It's not approved for male pattern baldness as of right now. It does work similar to finasteride and has been shown to actually do more than finasteride. So this is something that you might want to consider. Now, all of these right here are something that you could consider actually supplementing minoxidil and or finasteride with to kind of create like a stack. Now, people inside of like bodybuilding, they often create like a stack of different chemicals that they're using in order to maximize muscle growth and muscle repair and all this kind of stuff. Now, you can actually do this with your hair loss. So even if minoxidil and finasteride aren't doing enough, there's a chance that a combination of these may be able to get you all the way. Now, there are other experimental drugs out there, namely RU5841 and CB0301. Now, both of these are experimental drugs, right? So use at your own risk. They're not as easy to find. However, CB0301 actually just finished their stage 3 clinical trials, I believe in 2019. It's also gone into stage 3 trials for acne use, which is interesting. But what both of these do is manage the testosterone and the DHT, whereas finasteride is just managing the DHT. So these are something that you could try. And remember, testosterone is also causing hair loss as well. Now, what you should expect if you use these products for the first couple months is you're actually going to go on this graph right here. You're actually going to go for 0 months to about 3 to 4 months right here. You're actually going to go through a shedding phase. The first couple of months, it's going to feel like nothing is happening, and then 3 to 4 months, you're going to actually start shedding, right? Now, once you get out to like 8 to 12 months, that's when you should start seeing effects. This is when you should start knowing if what you're using and what you're doing is effective for you. Keep in mind that all of these drugs are not going to work for everybody. Minoxidil, I believe, is proven effective in about 66 or like 2 out of 3 men to maintain your hair, and only 30 or 33% are shown to actually regrow hair, which is really interesting statistic. So this may or may not be the solution for you. It may or may not work, and you might find a combination of things in here that can work for you. Now let's talk about like what happens after this, right? So let's just say that you tried all the drugs and they didn't work for you, or it's too late in your male pattern baldness to actually do too much about this. You might have lost so much hair that there's not really a chance to recover it. Once these hair cells die off, you can't really bring them back to life, at least what we know right now. So from here, you have a couple different options, right? Let's start with this one right here. So the first is a hair transplant. Now, what is a hair transplant? A hair transplant is when you go and you have either an FUE surgery or FUT surgery, which is where they take your donor area from the back of your head, which typically is not really affected by male pattern baldness, and they transplant those hair follicles up to the affected areas where you have lost hair. This can be done by cutting a strip out of your scalp, or it can be done by actually removing the individual follicles while not harming the scalp whatsoever, which is a pretty cool procedure. However, keep in mind that in order to keep the hair that you still have in the area that you're going to be experiencing male pattern baldness, you're still going to have to take finasteride. This is something that they're going to prescribe to you. You're going to take finasteride, right? So this is going to be part of it, if not just minoxidil, right? So let's just say, for example, you found out finasteride and or minoxidil do not work for you before you go get a hair transplant, which is something that you actually should find out. Well, it may not be the best choice for you to go and get that transplant, even though that's what you want the most, because this does happen to some people where they go and get a hair transplant and it looks great for the first year or two, but they lose all the hair around it, and then you're just left with these tufts of hair or whatever, and that's no good either. So you have to get another hair transplant, and the next thing you know, you're $50,000 in debt and you don't have the hair that you want anyways. So that's an option that you do have, right? But we need to know this in advance. That's mandatory. You've got to know that kind of stuff. And doctors generally don't say that up front, but you should know that. Now, another route that you could go is skeletal micropigmentation. Now, this is basically getting tattoos kind of on your scalp to make it look like you have a hairline and full hair on your scalp. This is a great option for someone that really wants to have stubble on their head. They want to have very, 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 very short hair, and they're just looking for that kind of like 5 o'clock shadow of hair. Not 5 o'clock shadow, but you know what I mean. And so this right here, your options are limited. This is for someone who is going to have stubble, right? just one step away from being bald pretty much. And it can be a great option for that. It has great results and it can look very, very good. But you're limited, of course, to that. So this right here is pretty limited. Now, the other course that you can take is you can shave your head. This right here obviously has the lowest amount of maintenance and the lowest cost. You can just buy a razor and just whoosh, 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 shave it down. You don't have any hair, that's it. You're done with the problem, right? So this is something that makes sense for some people, but not for everybody. And then lastly, we have, of course, hair systems. Now, hair systems are going to be, you know, versatile in style. They also, no chemicals. They also are, they're, you know, not as expensive as a transplant up front. Depending on where you go and how you get your hair transplant, it might be more expensive than the long run. Keep that in mind. And you know, of course, you have to do maintenance. So now maintenance, you know, so this sounds like it's a lot of time, maybe like 2 hours every 10 to 14 days at really maximum. You can push your bond a little bit longer if you want, but you know, with a transplant, finasteride and minoxidil, you know, you have to rub in your head every single morning, every single night. You have to do that for the rest of your life, and then you have to let it dry. So if you want minoxidil to work, you can't just leave it in for 5 minutes and expect that everything is going to be okay. You have to leave it in there, let it dry, let it sit on the scalp. So, you know, that itself is a form of maintenance that you may or may not be interested in. So keep in mind that hair systems will require some maintenance. Now, these are really kind of like your main options that you can go for, right? And there's no wrong answer to this right here. I've obviously chosen a hair system because I'm okay with this stuff right here. It fits in my wheelhouse. I don't want to deal with finasteride and minoxidil, the side effects and putting drugs in my body. I don't want to mess with testosterone and DHT or anything like this. That's just me. Let's talk about some of the things that actually don't work though, and some of the things that maybe you have been sold, and maybe some of the things that you think are working. So shampoos targeted towards hair loss are really just like snake oil salesmen and charlatans in this field, right? Now think about this. Minoxidil is supposed to be on your scalp for 4 hours for it to be effective, and it's a medication that is clinically proven to work directly to help hair loss. It's studied, it's researched, all this kind of stuff. Most shampoos have active ingredients that do help with hair loss. However, they recommend to be on your scalp for 2 to 5 minutes and then you wash them off. How is that going to help you topically the same way that minoxidil is going to help you? It's just not going to be. It's just not going to happen unless it's like radiation level, you know, super potent or something like that. But that's not how those things are. So don't be sold into that. Now, another big one that people talk about is biotin, right? They talk about biotin, which is a water-soluble B vitamin, and they market it as a beauty supply, and they market it as a beauty supplement that helps for hair and nail growth, which actually does help with hair and nail growth. However, it doesn't cause hair loss. The only way that you could potentially be suffering from hair loss from biotin is a severe deficiency, which is something that is not happening inside of if you're watching things on YouTube and you have access to food, water, and things like that regularly, and you're healthy, you're not lacking biotin. You get it in vegetables and fruits. If you were in, you know, a country that doesn't have access to this kind of stuff, maybe, but the chances are that's probably not you right now. And here's the other thing with biotin, like even if large like macro dosing or like mega dosing this stuff could help with hair loss, it's still a water soluble B vitamin, which means that it's not going to store inside of your adipose fat tissue and sit there and work. It's basically just going to be peed out. So these things are kind of like the common things, as well as herbs. You know, they may support some blood flow or something like this, but that's really not the problem with hair loss. It's actually caused by DHT and testosterone sensitivity. So these are some of the things that you have to consider. Now, you know, with hair systems, because most of our community is looking at hair systems and they're thinking about hair systems, right? Hair systems, you may think that you're a little bit too early on this journey. You may feel like, hey, I'm kind of like right here where I haven't lost enough hair and I'm still going through this journey. I don't know if I can get a system yet. Well, chances are you can. You could either, one, get a partial, or two, you could actually shave down the hair that you have and just go directly into it. That hair, some people wonder, well, hey, isn't it going to push up and the bond is going to break and all this kind of stuff? Well, if you're changing your system every 2 weeks or something like this, how much hair actually grows in 2 weeks? And the answer is, it may affect the bond a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to make it so that you can't wear it. And once again, you could just wear a partial to cover the areas that you are in your crown or inside of your front hairline or something like this. So hair systems are very versatile. There's other choices out there though, depending on where you are in your journey, and you shouldn't discount them. I hope that this right here has kind of given you like a flow chart and a breakdown and an analysis of how to go about doing these things and how to start making some of these choices. If you have any questions, of course, though, reach out to me. Once again, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell below. Like 60% of the people that are watching this video right now are just getting exposed to hair system and hair loss content for the first time. They're searching for answers, they're looking, they're desperate. So every time you like, comment, and subscribe, it helps YouTube push that content out to everybody else. So please, guys, go ahead and do that. Also, my video ebook, which is going to be all about like mindset all the way to a full install for a hair system, is going to be coming out pretty soon. I have one more video to record, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of content, like hours and hours of content that are going to help you guys, which I'm pretty excited about. Anyways, guys, I will see you in the next one.